Cemetery Gates podcast, featuring Xander Kane and Android Virus.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Cemetery Gates podcast. I'm Android Virus, joined by my illustrious co-host, Mr. Xander Kane.
That's me. I'm here. I'm good.
Are you?
Good, yeah. I was delivering some magazines before, and now I'm home. All's good.
Your neighbors, High Times and Hustler?
No. The local music mag in the city that I write for. And this issue, I actually have a photo or two in it. So,
Wow.
Yeah. It's cool. Print only, so if you don't live in Atlanta, you're not going to get it. So.
I want to get one. Just send me one.
Okay.
High Times and Hustler for me, sir, if I'm your neighbor. I don't even know if they make those anymore. What am I kidding? I mean, the only magazine I get is
clue.
I get Horror Hound. That's what I get.
Yeah.
So that's the gist of it.
Fair.
Fun news I just found out the other day that I didn't even know. They just wrapped with the original writer and director, Mutilator 2.
What?
Yeah.
I knew that was like rumored forever. I just assumed it was never going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, Mutilator 2. It was sent to me by one of our fans, our three fans that listen to our show. But yeah, it was actually courtesy of bloodydisgusting.com. And I mean, what? Yeah, all these years later, 84 slasher movie The Mutilator is getting an official sequel by Bloody Disgusting has learned that this week Mutilator 2 is now wrapped. Buddy Cooper returned to write and direct decades later the sequel to slasher he made back in the 80s. And we've been told the film will be completed in September. So there you go.
Well, I'll be damned.
Yes.
Miracles do happen.
They do.
You know,
yeah.
I only remember teensy pieces of the Mutilator. I've seen it, but I don't remember much of it. So,
you know, it might be worth a watch on our show. I mean, I've seen it plenty of times, but I think if you've seen bits and pieces, I think it would be really worth a watch for us.
Yeah. I think I just remember bits and pieces. I don't really.
Sure.
So
we you know, I mean, I've done thousands and thousands of hours of podcasting, so I'm sure if somebody one day decides to scour through all the thousands of hours I did and cancel me, they could do so. However, yeah, just take a sound bite here and there. I mean, there's probably something last week, but anyways, but I told this story probably before where I'm a sensitive boy, or I still am sometimes, but yeah, I mean, just horror, obviously, naturally, right? Horror movies, anything to do with horror, scary, would definitely bring up a lot of anxiety in me. And that was even like, I mean, as I kind of got more into the, 10, 11, 12-year-old, I wasn't scared no more of horror. And then I was intrigued and I was like, oh, this is cool. I had nothing to be scared of. But I remember being a little kid going to the grocery store, and our grocery store used to rent movies. And I just remember seeing the Mutilator cover. And then I was just like, oh, and I actually didn't watch the movie until I was an adult. But yeah, if I watched it as a kid, it would have fucked with me for sure. But it's worth it. Yeah.
Well, who knows what the future holds?
Right. And the Mutilator is one of those movies where I think we've watched a few, and somebody ought to write an article on it sometimes, but there was those one-off slasher films that some dudes put their money together, got some investors, and wanted to be the next Friday the 13th and thought they were going to be millionaires.
Yeah. I feel like I get the Mutilator and 3 on a Meat Hook mixed up all the time.
Do you? Well, it's the cover.
And it's the cover, because one of them's not that good at all.
3 on a Meat Hook is not good.
Yeah, I don't remember it being good at all. So
it's super like 70s love story, nothing but talking, and everything happens literally in the last 2 minutes of the movie.
Exciting.
Yeah, no good. So, but Yeah, I was super excited by that news. What else? I don't know. Been catching up on a lot of shows with the wife. Nothing really horror related though,
Whoa.
which is okay.
Yeah, we take breaks, believe it or not, everybody.
We do. Well, the last episode of The Boys was a little horrific.
Yeah, I haven't watched a single episode.
Herogasm, sir. Herogasm. That's all I'll say.
Okay.
It's just an orgy with
Nice.
superheroes and using all their powers to fuck each other.
Dope.
Yeah. So, there's like an Iceman type of guy making a dildo.
I mean, it's the questions everybody's always asked about superheroes.
Right.
There's definitely some fan fiction superhero orgy shit out there. So kudos to the boys for actually putting that shit on screen. So respect.
Yeah.
Even though I haven't seen it, fuck it. I'm here for it.
Yeah. An Ant-Man type of character crawling up his boyfriend's pee hole. Stuff like that. Like, what the fuck are we doing? My wife's like, ah! Oh, it was great. I was like, just watch it. Because my sons are like, ooh, you're watching episode 5. Oh. And then my wife's like, really? That was it? She's like, they don't know, do they? I was like, well, they got here some way, Rachel. Shit. Fuck. Shocked 15, 16-year-old boys. So what you been watching, sir?
Man, so I'm trying to think what I talked about the last time we recorded, but I don't really remember. I watched a cool flick called Revealer on Shudder that I really liked. And basically it's about this girl that takes place in the 80s in Chicago, I think. And she's like just going to work in a peep show to make some cash. And on her way into the peep show to work, she comes across like religious protests.
Mm-hmm.
And they both wind up getting the girl that's in the peep show and the girl she ran into outside protesting. Like some apocalyptic shit happens. And basically they both get trapped together inside the peep show, and it's about them trying to get out and escape. It was very entertaining. The music was fantastic. I thought it was funny. I thought both actresses did a great job in their roles. Very fucking enjoyable film. So that is highly recommended. And then I did watch The Sadness finally.
Oh, you were telling me that was fucking awesome.
It was fucking awesome. That's it. That's the review. It was fucking awesome. There's really not much wrong with it. It's almost I give it a 4.5 out of 5. Almost a 5. I don't give out 5s very often, but there was very few things wrong with it. Super violent, super, definitely broke away from your traditional ho-hum zombie films, and I liked it a lot. And then you're going to be proud of me, I watched the first 3 Sharknado movies.
Oh, what was the special occasion for that one?
I don't know, actually. I was like, yeah, I'm going to watch these. So I just decided to watch them. And I've enjoyed all of them, actually. The first one I like the best. The second one's fine. The third one's okay. So, I mean, there's 3 more to watch. So,
Now, are those asylum films? Or are they just
yeah. Well, the first one was, and then I think it was Asylum and Sci-Fi, and then I think Sci-Fi kind of took it over as it progressed into 6 films. So, but yeah,
I was duped by Asylum one time.
it happens to all of us, man.
Yes, I was. I was like, what?
If you it happened to me back in the Blockbuster days. Just cruising by. So,
but I will say that their version of Paranormal Activity, which is Paranormal Entity, is pretty good.
Yeah,
I'll give them that one.
Yeah, and then the last thing I watched, I finally caught up with Vanishing on 7th Street, which is an old film from 2010, and it's like about a blackout happens in the whole city, and like people are kind of disappearing. And it's all about the survivors kind of banding together and trying to figure out what the fuck is going on and kind of survive.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was really cool. I like the director, Brad Anderson. He wrote Session 9 back in the day. I did Trans-Siberian. I think he directed Clickbait, The Call. He directed Session 9 as well. And Stonehurst Asylum, The Machinist as well. That's his big movie.
That's his big break.
This big break. I always liked the guy. I always liked his films, and I just hadn't seen Vanishing on 7th Street, and I enjoyed it. It definitely suffers from not much budget. You could tell it was way before he was, directing The Machinist or any of that other mainstream stuff. But it was good, man. I enjoyed it. And then I did actually finally watch Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And
I liked it. I don't think I loved it as much as everybody else. I don't know. I'm so over the tie-in stuff. That's fucking 20 minutes of a Marvel movie. Like, I think I'm over it, which sucks because I love Doctor Strange. I just want Doctor Strange movies that don't exist in the fucking MCU. That's what I want.
We'll have to watch the 70s one.
I have seen it. It's great. It's weird as shit.
With our actor. I got molested in the boys' room.
Yeah, I know. I love the 70s version. I went through a kick where I watched that and then the old like Red Brown Captain America flicks.
Oh, those are great.
Do you remember those? They were so bad, but they were good. I mean, they were entertaining as fuck.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
I remember.
I still enjoyed Multi-Years. But
didn't Red Brown have a black van in it? I think so. And he rode his motorcycle out the back of it, like Captain America just cruised around.
I remember him riding his motorcycle out of the back of a van, but I don't remember if it was a black van.
I just remember being a little kid playing just being a little kid playing, just thinking Captain America was in the back of my fucking black Hot Wheels van,
Yeah. Do you know who sent me those to watch? Because I couldn't find them, and someone sent them to me from the Killer Reviews days.
Mr. Gregmo.
Mr. Gregmo Roberts.
Oh, yeah. Mr. Gregmo Roberts.
He procured them for me and sent them to me.
I wish upon a star that you and I were both like millionaires, just with whatever, like daddy's money or whatever, and we could go like ambush him in Vegas right now.
That would be so much fun.
Wouldn't it be like, hey, we're gonna meet at this time. We're gonna ambush him, and it would be, he would drop everything he was doing at that moment just to get trashed with us.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
And I would too. I'd be like, all right, we're for a long night. Let's do this. I don't get trashed often, but 4 beers deep. I'm just kidding. So, that's awesome, man. Yeah, I'm glad you liked. I mean, I got, I don't know. We'll see what's up. We powered through some movies on this episode. I will say I powered through some movies on this episode.
Yeah, there is. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, for sure.
All right, let's get started with this. I'll might be able to find a trailer for this or not for your pick, sir. And we're gonna go with yours first.
Okay.
And, yeah, if you're ready. I don't know. I don't want to put you on the spot.
No, I'm trying to look up the date of the film, but it's not
86?
Okay, it's not even in IMDb.
Well, I found it. Mania.
What?
It's Mania of the Intruder.
Oh, wait, here we go. Hold on.
Mania: The Intruder.
There we go. Okay, got it.
There you have it. So, if we can find a trailer, we're going to play it right now. And if not, then we'll just keep going. So.
And here we go. That was the trailer, or maybe it wasn't the trailer. For 1986 Mania. This is a Canadian anthology film.
Right.
But the unique thing about it is it's not really, well, they claim it's the unique thing about it. I don't think it's all that unique. It's not really, there's not a wraparound story. It's not really, doesn't have like a Vincent Price type like host or anything. It's just like straight short story after short story after short story.
Right.
And there's 4 stories in it, and they all really, the stories do have kind of a common thing that I'll talk about at the end.
It's very Canadian film.
Not initially. So since there's no wraparound here, we're just going to go through and just kind of talk about each story. And they're all about 20 minutes long a piece, I guess.
Sure.
Roughly.
Yeah.
The first story is a guy who is like kissing face with this lady, making out, and then you don't really know what's going on at first, and then he pays her or he gives her earrings.
Yeah.
She's like, "Oh, you're already my best customer."
Yeah.
And he's
the
like,
lady of the night.
and then she like totally like makes out with him one last time before she leaves his apartment. And as she leaves, you hear her screaming and she gets attacked. And he runs over to the window and watches this guy kill her. And at this particular scene, it's very Giallo-esque. Like he's got the black trench coat and all you see is the black glove with the knife, just like repeatedly stabbing this woman. And he's just like panicking upstairs. And he goes over to call 911 and they're like, oh, is this an emergency? He's like, yes, it's a goddamn emergency. And then the cops get on or whatever. And he's like, he didn't say anything. He just hangs up. And you're like, why the fuck did he do that? As it turns out, he's engaged. That we find out later. So he's cheating on his fiance.
Which is weird because if you there's a conversation between him and the fiance where it's like, well, I haven't heard from you in a week, and he's like, oh, I just haven't been answering my phone, I haven't been filming myself.
Right.
I don't know. Like if I'm getting fucking married, like me and my chick are talking every day, multiple times a day, right?
Yeah, and they're talking about their honeymoon at the table. And she's like, why didn't you talk to me last week? And you're like, what the fuck? And she's like, you're forgiven. I'm like, what? She believed the line of the phone systems were messed up in the building. You're like, okay. Yeah, there was totally weird interaction, weird relationship that they had going on. But yeah, so as they're at the dinner, they're talking, and then the killer that he actually sees the killer's face. So he knows exactly who the killer is. And while they're at dinner, he sees the guy like kind of peeking through the window and he freaks the fuck out and they leave the restaurant. And I guess he takes her home. You don't really see where she goes. And he goes back to his place. And the guy's like, he sees him outside. Holy shit, it's raining like a motherfucker here.
Good for you, since I'm here.
Yeah. And the guy's outside and he just like, this is such a stupid scene. I don't know why anyone would do this. He screams out the fucking window, I won't tell anybody what I saw. Leave me alone. Like out into the whole fucking courtyard of the apartment complex. I'm like, right. The cops no one will ever tattle on this guy. The cops eventually do show up and the cop obviously knows something's going on. And that, the killer winds up planting the knife in his place and the cop obviously finds it when the cop goes visit. And then they go to court and then he's talking to his lawyer and he's like, they don't have anything on you. It could have been planted, blah, 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 talking about how he's could potentially get off from this murder. And as soon as they like start the trial, lo and behold, who comes walking through the fucking chamber doors? It's the judge who is also the murderer.
Black-gloved killer.
Dun, dun, dun.
And he just sat him.
Yeah, and that's the end of the short. All these shorts end abruptly like this. Like, just end, like, hard end. Like, okay, cool.
Their hard ends with, I wish they could play. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
That's all I wish they could play. So
yeah. The second story I thought was kind of dumb, but it's about a guy and his wife adopt a dog. The husband doesn't like the dog. He's like terrified of dogs his whole life.
Because a dog clawed and scratched at his face when he was a little boy.
So they get this big Rottweiler that loves his wife and doesn't really care for him. And his wife goes out of town. And he tries to poison the fucking dog. And then when he comes home, the dog's like puking up. There's blood on the floor and the dog's mouth is like covered in foam. He takes him to the vet. And like, oh, thank goodness she got him here in time. Blah, blah, blah. And when he goes back home, because he tried to put some poison on the steak to kill the dog.
Yeah.
And when he got home, he realized that the steak was not eaten. And then the phone rings and it's the vet. And he's like, oh, he didn't get poisoned. He found 3 human fingers in his. He's like, he must have found someone must have broke into your house, and he was just choking on the fingers. And then a bloody hand comes around the corner. As the guy's on the phone, and then the guy winds up getting killed. And that's the end of that short. Like, there's nothing to it. The whole short is like everything I just told you, but drawn out over 20 minutes of him walking around, talking to the dog, be like, ugh. Like nothing happens the whole short.
Yeah.
But once again, the dun 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 surprise ending at the end of that one.
You know,
Uh,
yeah.
No wraparound, so we're literally just going story.
Yeah,
story,
like
story.
just like pause screen, pan camera in as somebody's clutching their pearls with a surprised look on their face. That's how every single one of these end. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. And then the next one is a lady gets a phone call from some random person, and they're basically, do what we tell you to do, or we're gonna kill your daughter.
Yeah, he's like the breather. I don't know. Were they
Yeah.
breathing? I don't know. It's fucking hilarious.
Yeah. And then it's the whole thing is the mom just being like kind of manic, not manic, but like very high stressed about the whole situation. She's going to the bank to get money and get the jewelry that they've requested of her. And this one ends really, I don't even know like exactly what they were going for here, but the guys eventually get the things and she gets her daughter back and they make it look, but the phone like starts ringing. Or what? Her daughter tells her something about.
And the daughter was never. But the daughter was never kidnapped. She just comes home from school.
Right. She's like, I did bad on my spelling test, or I missed one word on my spelling test. I didn't know how to spell horrible. And then the phone rings, and the mom's like, still got tears in her eyes, and she's just staring at the phone. And that's the end of that one.
Yeah, I didn't. That one was strange. I don't know. I mean, very ambiguous, sir.
I was like, I feel like I missed something. But yeah, that one was whatever. And then what was the last one? The last one was, oh yeah, I call this one the old man takes a stand. even though that's not the end of it. So like there's I guess two coworkers, and one of them's an older gentleman and a somewhat younger guy, and they go out drinking and they wind up going to the subway, and there's a group of like your typical 1980s New York gangsters, or not gangsters, like punks, metal jackets or leather jackets and metal studs and all that, the typical stereotypical
right
1980s street kid essentially. And they like kind of terrorize them for a second. The old man's like, bah, fuck y'all. He didn't say fuck y'all. And he's like, he tells them all to fuck off and insults them. And they basically run into the subway, and they barely get into the subway train before the guys come to like fuck with them. And they go off on their way away from the bad guys, in quote. And the one guy gets off the subway and is heading home, and he hears a woman screaming. And he's like, oh shit. So he goes to check that out. And this woman is being attacked by, another one of these street kids. And he goes and helps her out. He grabs like a fire extinguisher and like fucking sprays the dude with it to get her away. And they basically run for 10 minutes being chased by this guy. And they eventually wind up at the gentleman's house. And he's like, oh, okay, we'll call the cops from here. We'll be okay. And she's like, oh, thank you so much. And they kind of exchange names. They kind of have a little moment like, thank you for saving me.
He was the captain. He was a Captain Save-A-Ho.
Yeah. And then she's like, I know the guy's still out there. She's like, I know he's out there. And so the guy starts like looking around the house. And lo and behold, the guy is there. And they have a back and forth scuffle. And he winds up stabbing the street kid. And, the woman's like, oh, thank you so much. And then the tables turn. And he realizes that the woman was attacking the man, was attacking the street kid. So she's the aggressor here. And so she starts struggling with him, and then the street kid gets back up from his stab wound and kind of knocks her out. And there's more fighting, and eventually at the end of it, the guy that was the good Samaritan winds up stabbing and killing her as the cops come into the place. Right. And that's the end of that one.
Dun, dun. And he's just sitting in his chair with the cops come in, he's sitting in the chair with the bloody knife in his hand at night, and two stab bodies on the floor in front of him at his feet.
Yeah. So like there's not like a wraparound, but to me, out of all these short films, the thing that is very common, it's people put in situations that they don't really know how to handle.
Right.
Like they're put in very outside of their comfort zone. So like all the one thing that does go in every single one of them is that. That's why I say like there's a whole lot of, and all of them they're like, you know, like you say, camera pan walking around. They're really focusing on like people's facial expressions. Like there's a lot of focus on, you know, just staring at just putting it on the lead character. The camera's on the lead character a lot on all these, and it's just trying to. I don't know if the overall direction of this was to kind of put you in their shoes, but none of them are particularly violent or bloody or really all that terribly interesting. However, I don't think it's awful. It's just not exciting. There's nothing great there. Like one of the great things about anthology films is often the wraparound story. This just feels like you're watching a couple short films, but at least they did try to tie some things together. It felt like to me, anyways.
It to me like it felt okay. So first things first, like I kind of made the comment earlier. It's very Canadian, very 80s Canadian. So like it's funny like how I conceptualize what I say very 80s Canadian. It's very like half American, half like British. Like you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
it's just got that weird vibe to it, you know, which I love, right? Like I love cinema filmed in Canada during the 80s and throughout the 90s. You know, I love like 21 Jump Street. That was all like filmed in Canada. I love the early episodes of the X-Files. Those are all filmed like in Vancouver, you know, and it just got that weird, you know, Seattle-ish type of vibe. It's Canada trying to be America. So it kind of got that vibe from this as well. But, you know, it pretty much I feel like they could have taken an old it had the feel and definitely the vibe, and I want to say the all-around atmosphere of your 1980s Tales from the Dark Side TV show, for the most part, without like a whole lot of like it did have a theme. It was the I got you at the end or the twist
Yeah.
ending, and but didn't wasn't a lot of violence in this. Obviously, I mean
No.
there was some blood. The best thing we got was the guy's cut off fingers, which was really effective. I
That
thought that
was
was really cool.
yeah, I thought the reveal of that was probably the best reveal.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
But you know, it's an anthology film. It was not. It wasn't a swing and a miss for me, but it definitely was like a foul ball, right? So
Yeah.
it wasn't that didn't none of the stories knocked me on my ass. I was left with more questions than answers. I can say that much. And I think like if we're gonna whittle down each four of the stories, I would have to say my favoritist one would have probably been the first one was kind of corny. The second
But
one was what? The dog. I like the dog one the best. I don't
yeah,
know.
I like the last one the best.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I like the last one the best because like the reason I quote it as the old man fights back or whatever is the fact that the guy is very like Charles Bronson-esque in his
Yeah.
delivery of his lines. So, you know,
Yeah,
and it
not
so
bad. What'd
yeah,
you give it,
and
man?
after so man, it's like I said, I don't think it's amazing, but I don't think it's all around bad. So I'm like waffling between a 2 and a 2.5. I don't know exactly where I want to lie, but I can stand it. I can stand it. We're gonna stick at 2. I think.
Yeah, I'm
I
there
think we're gonna
with you,
stick
man.
at 2. There's no real reason to bring it up to 2.5, but I would say it's close to 2.5 for me, but a 2 for me. I don't. If you're, you know, I think if you love anthology films, I think it's worth checking out because, like you said, there is some of that like '80s Canadian charm to it that's likable, and I like a lot of there's a couple stories. There's a couple of giallo kind of nods because there's another scene in the third one where the mother is driving to the bank and she's wearing the black gloves, right?
Right.
So it's like,
Yeah.
oh, you know, so there's little things here and there. So it was alright.
Is I
It
yeah,
was alright.
I'm gonna go with you on that one as well. I'm gonna give it a solid 2. Didn't really knock my tits off, but you know, at the same time, it was okay. I do know this, that it was doesn't it all of them done by the guy who did or a couple of them did the Canadian slasher Prom Night?
I'm not sure.
I think he did that.
I didn't check.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're gonna, it's not in the upper echelon of the horror anthologies,
Not
guys.
at all.
Not at all. Which is a nice segue to mine, which isn't either, but no spoilers. Maybe we can do a if I can find a trailer to 1989's Freakshow, then we'll listen to it and we'll be right back.
Howdy, Sybil. It's not what you think. I went out on a date with him. That's it.
Death, dreams, and movies all start the same way. The lights go down. Something comes after you in the dark. The dream evaporates.
Looks like I'm just gonna have to start
movie
seeing
ends.
other nights.
Except for this little baggie right here.
If you want to see, to experience, relax.
They're mine now.
We've lost them.
I'm alive. Don't go away. Look at my hand moving. You made a mistake.
You saw things.
How did you do that?
We think we'd like to add you to the collection.
All right, that was a trailer for 1989's Freakshow. And we got another anthology. I saw the name
Yes.
anthology, and I said, "Man, I want to see if I can find some hole in the ground weird anthology myself," which I was able to come up with Freakshow. I just saw the word anthology. This one movie, not a lot of stars in this, other than for us '80s kids, Andre Landers. She had a sister who was a twin as well. There were a lot of go-to. Her and her sister were like go-to girls on, the
TV circuit, right?
yeah, the whole Love
Yeah.
Boat and
Yeah.
Fantasy Island, A-Team, all that shit, right? So they were pretty girls. But yeah, so the it had a really promising start. I'm gonna put it to you this way, okay?
An awesome start. I love the idea of this wraparound.
I do too. So we have obviously a lot different than Mr. Xander Kane's movie. This one does have the wraparound kind of host, tie it together anthology shit, right? So um, there is a guy who opens up. It's a mass shooting, right? He opens up.
In a mall, right?
It's like a movie theater.
Or a movie theater. Yeah, they call it
Yeah,
the
it's-
Midnight Massacre.
Yeah, the Midnight Massacre, and Audrey Lander's character is doing the story, and she's just being very salacious about it. She wants to get the bodies filmed, and this guy, they give the backstory. This guy got into an argument and got fired, so he decided to slaughter everybody at the movie theater, and it was a really effective opening scene. You got like a slaughter in front of a movie theater in the street.
Yeah.
Which seems like it would have been a pretty big production, man. Like it really does. That at least that scene does. But her cameraman's done with her. He ditches her.
Well, everybody's kind of done with her. Like,
Yeah.
she's not liked by anybody, I guess, at the station. Like, she's just
No, for
she's-
herself.
yeah, she's like everybody thinks she's kind of selfish and just kind of a fame monster, and in a sense, because she keeps bringing up, I just made your career by this story.
Do you know what this film footage is going to do for your career? I really don't care, lady. You know?
Yeah.
So she gets ditched by the cameraman. He's like, you know what? Find your
Fuck
own
you.
fucking ride home, bitch. You know? What? Later, you know? So he takes the camera truck and leaves her. So she's walking. And she kind of wanders through the town looking for a phone she can use. And she finds herself going to this weird museum where this kind of weird, I don't know, like, I don't know, curator. You got your you know, he's your wearing your black suit, pale skin, mustache, high cheekbone, you know, guy. And he invites her to have a look around, and she encounters this weird jar, and it has like really weird visions in it. And the visions he kind of explained are visions drawn from her own mind. And this is where we kind of start the anthology, which obviously includes 4 stories like yours. And our first one is about
a poodle. It's about a poodle.
It's about a poodle, and it's about this dude who's like lives in a junkyard, and he's a homeless dude, and he gets his ass kicked by a bunch of kids. He's just looking for a fix. He goes, hey, you know where the doctor lives? And she's like, he's up there on the 2nd floor, you know? And
like a giant abandoned like factory building. Like,
right. And he has the poodle, and she goes, I'm taking care of his dog. And so he thinks he can win points by taking the dog from her or whatever. Doesn't he do that? And goes
the
up
dog,
there.
well, he tries to, and the dog runs back home because
So he's like, hey, I need a fix. And the guy is this doctor. He's just kind of like big fat drug dealer, like white dude that, you know, I don't know, kingpinish looking. It's funny. And he's like, he's okay, get your drugs. And he's like, oh, I could pay you tomorrow. No, you pay now. You know,
it's also like a giant bag of cocaine.
Yeah, you
it's
pay
like
now.
It's like a sandwich, an average sandwich size baggie full of cocaine.
No, I want my drugs, bitch. You know, he's like, you know, he wants his drugs. And basically what happens is it's just, I think he ends up killing the guy.
Well, he stabs him in the hand with a fork at first, and they like fight back and forth over the drugs.
Yeah. And then
eventually
eventually, you know, he dies, and it's like he's playing this cat and mouse game with the poodle dog, right?
Right, yeah. The fucking poodle is just taking the drugs. And the fucking dude, the whole thing is the dude chasing a goddamn poodle with a baggie full of cocaine.
Yeah. Falls through a roof. It's pretty damn funny. Yeah. So he's just, you know, it's a fix. This fix. You know, it's this fix. And so yeah, it's a funny, you know what? It's not bad.
Right, and I think it so what I appreciate about the first one is we have such a like dark intro to this, right, with the massacre.
Right.
And then you get this kind of weird, kind of funny first one that's like, this is not dark as heavy. This is a little more lighthearted and kind of silly.
Yeah.
It was just weird that they basically went to the other end of the spectrum on it. But I was like, oh, okay. So then at this point I was like, oh, you know, this first one wasn't amazing, but you know, maybe, you know, I'm here for the ride at this point.
Right. And it's pretty damn funny the way this one ends. I kind of don't want to give a lot of spoilers on this one, but you know, after the story is over, it goes back to Audrey Landers staring at this fucking weird jar, and the curator fucking giving her some odd speech, and then we go into our next story, which is not bad. It basically somebody that's an Italian, and the worst Italian accents ever, the worst Italian acting,
Pizza Al Capone. Al Capone.
Yeah. Hey. Yeah, my son. It's like they're these like, I mean, like they're like I don't know, they're like Puerto Ricans trying to act Italian. It was fucking funny. But they get a call to take a delivery order with no garlic to 1313 Bram Stoker Boulevard. And I ain't going, you know, and then they call like the
new guy.
The new guy, he's like, you won't go, or they have a bet or something. I'll bet you I'll go and all blah 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 blah. And he goes, right? And he ends up going, and he's just this like not scared. Like he plays it off like he's kind of a nerdy dude, but he plays it off.
He's not super nerdy. He's just kind of on the edge of nerdy, I guess. By 80s film standards, anyway.
Right. He's not Revenge of the Nerds, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like,
He doesn't have tape on the glasses or anything like that.
but he is still a little dorky, and he goes into this place, and then it's just it's funny because when the door, it's like you have this like it's like that Sam Raimi effect, you know, where the camera comes up really fast to the door, but nobody's there. He opens it, and the house is like full of chicks
and white lingerie.
Laying
on a bed.
and then they play like really weird music, and it's like 80s music, and he's like, all right, quit messing around, and then he's got this hand goes around his throat, and it's like you can't see the face, you just see this dark hand with claws on it, and they're fucking with him, and he's like, oh, great props, you know, and he's just not taking it seriously, and then it finally ends up, he's like, hey, quit messing around, and then he turns around and he's got fangs and shit. It's like, what? And then you just have this pan out of him laying on this circle bed surrounded by all these women just staring into the camera, and they all have fangs, right?
Yeah, but it's like they all switch to black lingerie.
Yeah,
it's so weird. Like what?
yeah, and then he's like, and then he goes back, and they're like, hey, how was the delivery? And he's like, oh, it's great. They said they wanted a party. They need some guys to go over there. You guys down to go? Yeah, and that's like pretty much it. Like,
yeah,
and you're left to assume of what they're gonna do next, you know, and
they're gonna go have a blood feast.
Right. So that one was, you know, like I want to say kind of endearing. I mean, it
was just silly.
Bad. It was silly.
Yeah, the whole thing with like the lingerie switch, I was like, what?
Yeah. And then it, you know, she again goes back to the chick having the visions, and then you have this third one, which is very strange. This chick, like, she, like, thinks she's having, like, she's on a slab, right? She's on the autopsy table, and she's getting ready to get cut into, and then she sits up screaming, and all of her friends are like, hey, I told you not to take that bad acid, and I don't know, there's guys in it. There's all kinds of weird shit happening.
There's a coroner doing cocaine.
Yes.
There's a lot of cocaine in this anthology.
The coroner starts off doing blow. I'm like, wow. Like just fucking snorting it up. And then it kind of bats back and forth if she's dead or she's alive. But really, it's not. This one, I feel like, is the shortest one.
It's not terribly long.
No, and she's aware of her own autopsy that it's happening, basically. You know, that's really kind of what it boils down to. There's not a lot to this one, really. I mean,
no, it just tries to play with your mind. Is it what's really happening here? Is she having a bad trip, or is she actually being cut up?
Yeah,
but it's so short. You're like, okay, that was that.
Very short. Yeah, very very short on that one. And then at the end, the last one we have is, you know, like a really annoying couple playing golf. Dude dies. He's like older than his wife. She has him buried, and she has eyes for the gravedigger, who's this like straight out of the Motley Crue concert kid. You know, he's got that long hair, short bangs, like straight up, like he would be in a Motley Crue video in the audience, you know, or Wasp or whatever, you name it, right? And he's like hitting on the chick, and she's hitting on him, the widow, and she's a younger widow. And he's like, it's just that back and forth scene. He's like, hey, I could help you at your house, and da 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 da.
I bet you can.
I bet you can. And she's the owner of the golf course, basically, now, since he died. So she inherits everything. And she's like, I just needed some space, and I don't know if six feet of dirt is enough for us. So maybe you can meet me back in my house. He's like, sure. And then they have sex, and there's no nudity or anything. It's like really like he fucks her on the pool table, but like
they said they have sex 13 times.
He's
like,
like, I don't know.
13 times is my limit.
Yeah, 13 times is my limit. I gotta go. I'm like, what the fuck? So that shit was pretty funny. But they start to find that like they get dirt. She wants dirt from the graveyard.
Yeah.
Right. And him and his buddy who work at the graveyard are basically like giving her dirt. Right. And they're really goofy. These two guys. They smoke, they drink, they're whatever. But and the music's kind of, they have like really some unknown. I like to find out these unknown 80s bands that are in this movie because I actually I love 80s music, and I want to figure out like there's some kind of like 80s hair metal band that played in this last one, and in the vampire one there was some 80s weird shoegazy band. I'd love to find out who these bands are. But yeah, it basically, this one, like they curse the dirt somehow. Zombies come out. They're at a golf party and zombies.
Well, it's all. I assumed it because he's a grave robber essentially. Because he's stealing people's shit from before they die. So I took it as like these were all the people that he stole shit from, coming back after him.
And I liked how they did the zombies in this particularly because they were like
they
black
were
and white.
Yeah.
And they were black, like their clothes and their skin, it was just black and white.
I'll jump in the pool and go swimming, which was cool.
Yeah, and they're driving golf carts.
Doing like literally jumping off the diving board, doing like double flips into the pool.
Yeah.
As zombies.
They're drinking martinis.
Yeah, it's fucking
and there's
wild.
those old dudes just playing chess during the game during the zombie attack. and you know, and that one's funny. And then they're like, you know, at the end, like you know, he's like, I'll go check it out, you know, and she's stuck in the basement and she gets killed by her husband that she'd buried, you know, and the buddy gets in the graveyard, and you have like the ripping sounds and tearing sounds. But I think one of the big draws to this movie is they wanted to make it like a Halloween type of anthology movie, and really the only Halloween one that took place in Halloween was the pizza, the pizza delivery one. The rest of them really didn't.
Or if they did, they didn't do a very good job of portraying that on screen.
Right. And and basically, so it the end of it like kind of wraps up with she's now stuck in a trance in front of this fucking jar in this blue room, and like, I think our new attraction's great, very intriguing, and now she's just in a trance, stuck there forever, telling her stories, you know. Like,
which you assume would be the massacre, right?
Yeah, and she's just forever stuck in front of like she's talking to the news camera, but nobody's there, and that's kind of how it ends. If I'm going to compare these two anthology films, I think this one definitely has a leg up on the other one.
I would agree.
So, you know, I do like the premise. It was a hit and the miss. It was pretty low budget other than the very beginning. And from what I understand, this is kind of a hard one to find. It didn't really have a big release. I even think the original distribution on VHS was very limited on this one as well. Maybe just because it wasn't that great. I mean, I can see that happening. Not really big actors other than the Audrey Landers.
Who's in it very realistically and not very long.
They probably filmed her scenes seriously within like a day. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, in a day, maybe two.
Yeah. But if I knock it down story by story, it kind of didn't know what it wanted to be, because it starts off super serious, and then you have some comedy segments between the first one and the last one, and then you got the middle two kind of bunched in between that had been a little bit more of a serious tone to them. So I kind of feel like it didn't really want to know what it wanted to be, in a weird sense. You know, it was kind of all over the place as far as that is concerned. I wish they would have kind of stuck on a beat. It kind of made it feel really disconjointed as far as that is concerned. But same thing with anthology movies, right? You can take any one of these stories, you can put them on a Tales from the Crypt TV show, you know, whatever, right? Twilight Zone, the TV show, you name it. It could be in any one of those. But, you know, I'm going to give this one a 2.5 it's going to be a smidge better than your other one, just because I just feel like, I'm going to go with the 3 because the first one made me fucking laugh, and so did the last one. The chick, the pizza one was pretty decent too.
Yeah.
The autopsy one was a little off for me, but yeah, man. I mean, I'm gonna go with the 3 out of 5 on this one. It's worth a gander if you're into anthology films and if it's something you want to put as a notch on your belt. I think it's definitely worth it. I'd love to see this cleaned up by somebody, right?
For
Arrow,
sure.
Vinegar Syndrome, somebody. I'd love to see somebody clean this movie up. I think if it was cleaned up and presented and had some pretty decent box
It
art,
would find its audience.
absolutely, and I would watch
Yeah.
it again. So
For sure.
solid 3 out of 5 for me on the Freak Show. I don't know about you, sir.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's definitely better than my pick. And I the last one and this one I really loved. I loved the idea. I thought it was funny. He delivers a fucking goofball line talk when the zombies come up. He's like, "Oh man, maybe the Beatles will reunite." It's like, what the fuck? And I like the wraparound for sure. I like the idea of this one. To echo what you said, it just wasn't executed all that great, but there's enough good in here, and I think you're 100% right. A cleaned up version of this, I think, would do well.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I think somebody like Vinegar, like you said, Vinegar Syndrome, or Severin or Synapse, somebody putting it out would do good by it. So enjoyable. I'd say see it for sure.
Oh, totally.
I feel like it was a good double feature though for the episode, so it worked.
Oh, 100% a double feature for the episode.
And literally both blind picks too. Like I just picked one.
Yeah,
said-
and I saw anthology, and I'm like, I just typed up horror anthology, and I was like, oh, let's see if I can find this one. And sure shit, I found one, and I'm like, man, never seen this one before. Pretty
both have great poster art though.
They do, and some of them have multiple
awesome.
poster art too. So, just a lost art, man. I mean, go get the dudes designs VHS cover art book if you're into that stuff.
Oh yeah,
really, really, really good. I think tomorrow night, guess who's back in town, buddy?
Who dat?
Vinegar Syndrome.
Oh, what are they doing?
New York Ninja.
What? That's awesome.
Yeah, so I think I might go check it out. I mean, we'll see. It's a 10:30 movie, and I'm usually out by like 10, so I don't know. I'm old. I want to because I have friends that are going, and I shouldn't be such a freaking pussy, but I want to
take a nap when you get home, bud.
I know.
You'll make it.
I know, but see, here's the thing. Here's the thing, Mr. Xander Kane. I'm on a regiment where I'm working out and trying this health kick and
getting the right amount of sleep, getting all that.
And if I go out Friday night, I know I'm gonna drink beer and eat popcorn, and probably when I'm done drinking, want some fucking late night pizza. And that's gonna be the worst thing for me weighing in on Saturday morning.
That's 100% right.
I know. I'm gonna be like
all that salt and sodium. You're just gonna keep all that
water. Sir, you did not lose any weight this week. You gained. I'm like, what? Damn it! I'm working so hard. Well, I know I had a hard day yesterday. I was getting weak, right? And my wife's like, "How much money did you spend this?" I was like, "Ugh, okay, you got me. You know, you got me. All right, you're right. Thank you for talking me off the ledge, babe." As she's texting me pictures of, look at this hamburger I'm eating.
It's like, fuck off.
Yeah. Thank you for your support. Good night. All right, guys. Great show. Check these movies out. Freakshow and your movie.
Mania.
A pair of really weird horror anthologies. And I don't know. We should be back in a couple weeks, I hope. We're on a roll.
Yeah, we're on a roll.
We gotta do. I'm gonna do slashers. We'll figure it out. I don't know. We'll talk about it.
Okay.
But you guys know where to find us. And shout out to our KR fun KR gang. I'm glad that the band is back together, even though I just feel like we're back together as far as at least on Facebook Messenger.
Yeah, Facebook Messenger, yeah.
I mean, because, Facebook killed the internet. So there you have it.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's good to hear from, City of God on there.
I love the dude.
I was talking about forever.
Yeah,
I completely forgot about him until he popped in the chat. I was like, oh, shit, what's up, man?
Yeah, he this fucking guy, he he jumped into Android Vision.
Oh yeah.
Hilarious. Yeah.
Awesome.
And he's great. People are like, who is this guy? So thank you for the support, City. Love you, brother. So all right, guys, we'll see you on the flip. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thank you. I'll have a great weekend or week or whatever fucking day you listen to this. If you listen to this.
Good night.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Cemetery Gates podcast, featuring Android Virus and Xander Kane. Follow us on Twitter at Android Virus, at Xander_Kane, and at Cemetery Gates 66.